Hey guys, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Beards and Bitcoins. We're a podcast bringing you news, information, and stories to help spread the awareness of cryptocurrency. If you like what you hear, please leave a rate and review on your favorite podcast delivery service, and you can also share your favorite episodes on social media. We greatly appreciate it. And don't forget to go over to our website, beardsandbitcoins.com, where you can sign up for the 21 Bitcoin Best Practices Guide. And it's totally free. All it takes is your email. We won't spam you. Promise. All right, we got a special episode this week. We interview the founder and CEO of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance. That's right, you know him as CZ. For Newsbreak, we're going to talk about India's Supreme Court reversing the ban on cryptocurrency. And on Token Time, it's all about LINK. That's right, baby. Chainlink, everyone's favorite right now. And then don't forget our segment on Manspreading. We're going to talk about our favorite outdoor activities. So you make sure that you pick your favorite choice on the crypto Twitter poll. That's something we do every week. So make sure you're subscribed to our account. It's at Beards Bitcoins. All right, thanks again for joining us. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beards and Bitcoins, the crypto podcast for the man's man and the women who love them. We have an absolutely huge show for you guys today. We got one of the biggest interviews we have ever done. We have CZ from Binance on the show today. We've interviewed John McAfee. We've interviewed Pomp. We've interviewed Andreas Antonopoulos. We've got a lot of big guests, but this one may be the biggest one. So what did you think about the interview, Justin?
Yo, I thought it was really cool. It was fun to talk to CZ. Learned some good insights into some of the ways that Binance might go about some things. I also learned, I was today years old when I learned Bermuda shorts were called Bermuda shorts because it's like the suit bottom dress code. It's the weirdest thing.
Is the formal wear in Bermuda?
Yeah,
that's great.
Shorts, shorts, a shirt, a sport coat, and then tall socks to the knees with your dress shoes.
Yeah, I had no idea. When he said that, I was shocked. So that is definitely something in the interview you guys are going to want to check out. Watching CZ talk about dress code, but that's not all that we get into.
No way.
We ask him tough questions for sure in this interview. We ask him about what is going on with Steemit, with Binance making voting decisions on behalf of the people that hold money on their exchange. He had some really interesting things to say about exchanges in general and their use. So something I actually like. There was a good point that he made. You guys are definitely going to want to hear in regards to, are you safer with your money on exchanges or are you safer with it on your own personal wallet? He had a very interesting point I think you guys are going to want to hear. And we also get into, is Binance the next evil empire like Google?
$1 million.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite GIF on the internet. $1 million. Yeah. So definitely some stuff you guys are going to want to check out. But before we get into the interview, we're going to be talking a lot of different stuff today. We're going to be talking about the India situation. We're going to be talking about Chainlink for our show, or coin of the day for Token Time. And then we're going to be talking in Manspreading about, it's getting a little warmer. Well, it's not getting warmer weather. It's getting time for warmer weather. Want to know about your favorite outdoor activities. But before we do, we need to talk about our sponsor of the show, Monarch. Very excited to have them as a sponsor. And we want to thank them. The Beards and Bitcoins Crypto Podcast is brought to you by Monarch Wallet. Rule your own financial kingdom from the palm of your hand.
That is right, sir. The team at Monarch is working hard to bring you the one app to access all of the best crypto services. And these guys they believe in delivering tech, not hype.
Absolutely. With the universal decentralized Monarch wallet, you can buy, store, spend, and earn crypto. With Monarch Pay, you can set up and accept recurring crypto payments.
That is right. So for more information, make sure that you check out monarchwallet.com or monarchtoken.io today to get more information about Monarch.
That's right. And since we got a big interview to get to, let's go ahead and kick it off with Newsbreak.
All right. For Newsbreak today, something that just came out Wednesday. The country of India, the Royal Bank of India, has overturned the central bank ban on trading virtual currencies and having fiat on ramps. This is huge.
Yeah, definitely huge. But you know what I keep thinking about? RBI Baseball from Nintendo. Do you remember that game?
Oh my gosh, so long ago.
That was such a great game.
That was a good game. But most importantly, there's what, 3 billion people at the population of India. I mean, this opens up
I think it's like 1.5 billion.
I'm dyslexic, so I have my numbers backwards. 1.3 billion is the population of India. So that, I mean, right there, the user base can really start to grow for mass adoption.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that people need to understand, and I talked about that there's a little bit this week on my channel, which is India in 4 years, in 2024, India is going to be the world's most populated country. It's going to be bigger than China, and about I don't know, maybe about half the size geographically. I'd be very interested to see what percentage of the size like that India is compared to China in terms of its border. But population-wise, it's going to be bigger than China by 2024. And by 2050, it's not even going to be close. It's going to dwarf China. So you're talking about bringing in an absolutely huge amount of people into crypto.
Yes. So a little fact check. China is approximately 9.5 million square kilometers, while India is approximately 3.2 million square kilometers.
So you're talking about a third of the size with more people.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's high density.
China has a lot of area that's kind of like, just out in the country, I guess is kind of what we would say. Villages and things like that. I'm not sure about India. I know in the northern area of India, I know there's a lot of mountains and stuff like that. But there are just people living on top of each other like crazy there. So
I don't mean to be rude, and I know that we're kind of going way off topic here, but like in the country, in China, do you think they like have pickup trucks and mullets? Like
that's not rude. I think that's actually a compliment to them. Yeah, I definitely do think so. They're chugging 40s, chugging 40s, riding around in some trucks with some mullets, shooting, birds out of the sky with shotguns. I can see it happening. I mean, that's what we do here, right?
That's what we do.
That's right. Absolutely. But, I actually have a good friend of mine who is Indian. He lives here, but he's actually over in India right now, which is very interesting because I asked him, big shout out to old Haji Podge on crypto Twitter. He's a friend from real life that I have before I ever got, into crypto. And he said that, while he's there, I said, are people talking about this here? He said, no clue. He said the people in the country don't even know that this is going on. And I said, man, that's actually great news because I do know there are people in India that own cryptocurrency. This doesn't affect the individual person being able to own crypto that much. What this law is going to do is allow, first of all, it's going to be easier for people to buy crypto there, but this is going to open it up for blockchain development in India. And that's really big. And because since there's not a lot of development going on there right now, which is weird because it's one of the leading software places in the world, that once this area gets opened up, more people are going to know about it. So when he told me, he's like, people here don't really know about it, I was like, man, that means that this is a huge opportunity, for crypto to really explode there.
Yeah, I thought that, in the interview with CZ, when he had said it's like less than 1% of the population is into crypto or owns any kind of crypto. I mean, it's just mind blowing to think, we've got countries that are this large, with billions of people and still, nobody knows about it or has any kind of idea how to interact with it. So, I mean, like when you say, oh, it's just the beginning, it's the Wild West, you're like, that is legitimately true. Like we are still so early. There is a lot of work to be done. I'll tell you that. But definitely when you see news like this, when countries are saying, okay, because I don't know if you remember, it was like at the tail of 2017 into 2018, that was like the biggest hype, news could drop, make or break your project at that point. And, I remember, working in the exchange back then, and this was like the big news. India banned all cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh my goodness, that was a detriment to the industry. But I think it's a step in the right direction now.
Yeah, I think at the bare minimum, that's what it is. At the bare minimum, it is a step in the right direction, and I think that's great. But speaking of right directions, let's check out Chainlink.
Token time.
All right, guys, today we are going to be talking about Chainlink. Now, this is one of the most popular cryptos right now. It's top 15 cryptocurrency at the moment. I think it's coming in. Where's it coming in at, Justin? I think number 12 or 13.
On CoinGecko.com, it is actually coming in at number 11.
I was selling it short, believe it or not, when nobody's shorting Chainlink right now. But I do want to mention, if you guys want us to cover a coin or cover a token, like we're going to be covering Chainlink today, I think that it's very important for you guys to know that we have a Telegram group, Beards and Bitcoins. You can get to that Telegram group by going to t.me/beardsandbitcoins.com. And well, no, that's not right. It's just t.me/beards and bitcoins. There's no .com there. And you guys can go in there and tell us what coins you want us to talk about. I know a lot of people are excited about Chainlink because it just actually recently hit a brand new all-time high. And Bitcoin's not even really moving right now. And it just hit an all-time high. It's coming in right now at almost $5, 478. It just had a little dip to 467. What do you think about Chainlink making big moves, even though we've been in a bear / very beginning maybe of a bull run?
Man, I think it's pretty good. I in full disclosure, I got myself a bag of it. I think little baby bag. I mean, it's not a moon bag, but I believe in it, man. I think I wouldn't say that there was there was a little bit of hype around it. I think probably a couple months ago when things were starting to really get cooking. I mean, if you take a look at like the all-time low, I think 14 cents about 2 years ago, right before the crazy bull run happened. I mean, there was a big potential to make a ton of money if you knew about this back then. But I think sentiment of Chainlink is great. If you look at, again, I'll keep referencing CoinGecko. I'm a big fan of CoinGecko. I don't use CoinMarketCap. That's just a personal opinion. But I mean, if you look at the sentiment on Chainlink right now, 85% of people got it the thumbs up. So I think the way that I feel, a lot of people feel the same way. You're excited about it. I think there's a lot of potential. It's got a lot of potential in the near future. So we'll see, what they can rally and get going there. But I like the project. I like everything they're doing, and I wish it none but the best.
Yeah, you had actually found some interesting numbers before we started, getting into this. What is Chainlink up over the last 365 days? You guys are going to be shocked at this.
So if you look at the 1 year, it's up 988%, so almost 1,000, almost a 10xer in the last year. Not 2020, in the last 365 days.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
It really is, and it just makes you wonder. Like, it's so weird when you have coins like this that just all of a sudden just start just pumping. And now, obviously, this is not overnight pumps over the last year, but okay, so Chainlink is a project that has these things called Chainlink oracles, and these are basically mechanisms that allow off-chain data to be able to communicate with on-chain data. So if you're a company and you have like a bunch of data, but customer information or logistic stuff, and you want to migrate that over to blockchain, there really hasn't been a way to do that other than maybe manually doing it. But through these oracles, these Chainlink oracles, this data is able to transfer over to blockchain. So what it's supposed to do is ease with the transition from traditional, data input, data sources, data storage over to blockchain, which is great. This is great for blockchain. It really makes it where blockchain is going to be able to be more widely used. But does that sound like something that's like, oh, this is the greatest coin in crypto? I mean, it's hard for me to really wrap my mind around like what really causes these coins to kind of get far ahead, because we know there's not a huge correlation in crypto between products and the price.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because you'll see a product who will ink a deal with like IBM or some other huge supply chain. And who was that? I mean, that was maybe a year and a half ago. Whatever token that. Stellar, thank you. Yeah. It didn't really do much for the project, and I think ultimately the whole blockchain solution thing through IBM kind of went by the wayside because whoever that guy was, I think he was replaced or he stepped down or something like that. So, it's really interesting to see how, like you said, like they're just not pushing out hype. They're not, they're slowly building this thing up. I don't know.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I mean, it's really when you're trying to actually sit down and put a reason to it is hard to do, you know? And I mean, like there's certain people who've been pushing Chainlink for a long time on crypto Twitter, and they're having their day in the sun right now. But the thing is we've seen every other project have, you know, a group of people that says, this is the next project. So what is it that makes Chainlink different? It's a very interesting idea, you know, to think about and look at. But before we get to the interview with CZ, let's just take a minute and be dudes.
Oh, I love this time. This is my favorite. I think this is my favorite part of the show.
Manspreading.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen.
Mostly
gentlemen. So this week for Manspreading, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. Ben and I both live in warm climates, so it's relatively warm all year round. But if you don't, that means that you're probably suffering from seasonal depression.
Cabin fever.
But that's all going to end pretty soon here. I mean, we're getting to be the middle of March. Spring is in the air. Flowers are blooming. We don't care about flowers because we're men. It's time to get outside, get some fresh air, and do some fun stuff. So, Ben, let me ask you a question. When it comes to nice weather activities outside, what are you doing to spend your time?
So I mean, my kids are in sports, so we're always outside, you know, with the kids' sports. And, you know, I like to play pickleball. You know, I play adult men's softball. I haven't played in about a year or two, but I like to do a lot of those activities. But I would have to say that, like, my favorite thing where I just get outside and get to do nature doesn't actually hit until the fall, which I like to hunt. I'm a big hunter. Like to go out there and shoot some deer skis. You know, if you're not a fan of hunting, then screw off. No, I'm just kidding. I know a lot of people don't like it, you know, but you know, when I go out and I hunt and we, you know, if I get a deer or, you know, a turkey, whatever the case may be, then I'm going to eat it. You know, we're going to feed my family. Deer will feed your family for so long. We'll eat it all, you know, fall and winter long, you know, most years. So I didn't actually get out and get this year because I just been so busy or over the last season. So definitely looking forward when the weather gets warmer and then cools down a little bit more in the fall to go out and go hunting, because that's the way I really like to kind of get down with nature, I guess you could say. But what about you, Jay? What do you like to do?
Man, I live in a city where there is no shortage of things to do when the weather's nice. I mean, we like to get the inflatable paddle boards, go out and float the river here, grab the tube, go down to a couple cities south and, you know, actually float the lazy river. So we're outside pretty much all summer. Again, man, it's really hard to pick down one thing. I like to play golf as well, especially when it's nice but not too hot. But I think if I have to pick my number one for the sake of our Twitter poll this week, I'm going to say camping. Because with camping comes drinking coffee in the morning outside, whether you're in the mountains, by the lake, whatever, a fire at night. You're grilling your food over the fire, which is super cool. Just outside. And especially when you're in the mountains, man, there's nothing better than mountain air in the morning. So for me, it's camping and kind of the associated activities that go along with camping.
So I want to ask you a question. You said you like to go float down the river. You know, you're in Texas, obviously. I want to know, have you heard about Jacob's Well?
Yeah.
I want to know what you know about this place.
All I know, I've not been there. I don't think that I've been there, but I do know that it's a beautiful swim spot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, this is something I got on a rabbit trail, on an internet rabbit trail, like trying to hunt this down. And basically, it's a place, Phantom Springs Cave is where this is, and it's in it's in Texas. I think it's near. I'm not.
It's right near me. Wimberley is like probably 30 minutes west of where I am.
Okay, nice. And these are some of the biggest underwater caves in the world, and they go back for miles and miles and miles. But there's a place where you can kind of jump into the water hole there, where it's basically bottomless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super cool. There's actually a couple of them. There's Hamilton Pool that's like that, which is not too far, right up Mount Bonnell Road, I think. There's a couple really cool spots. And I didn't know that. I lived in Austin for a few years before I understood that there is like a lot of intricate cave systems around here. Like you said, that, you know, connect these springs and these bodies of water.
But yeah, so you may not know this, but those underwater caves there, there's actually been a lot of deaths. It's like a place where scuba divers go to be like challenging and to go underwater and try to go back. I think it goes back like 3 miles or something. But a lot of people have actually died doing that. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, there's like the urban legends and the folklores, and then there's the cases where you hear things. But I'm actually I'm not a scuba diver, so I feel like that's probably one of those things that stays within their community.
Yeah.
There's like a whole community of like the scuba divers, the spelunkers, like people that do like all that.
Well, I had to talk about spelunking because I got a crazy spelunking story. That not me, about a guy that died spelunking. That's a dangerous thing. A lot of these outdoor activities can be very dangerous.
They are. So exercise with caution, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Absolutely. So, well, that is all we got for Manspreading today. We know you guys are, waiting to get into this interview. We appreciate you sticking with us before we get to it. For you guys that went ahead and skipped ahead and are just now getting to this part because you're skipping through, you did the wrong thing. You should have listened to the whole show. But let's go ahead and get into it. Here's our interview with CZ from Binance. All right, guys. Today we are joined by one of the most popular and fascinating people in crypto, CZ from Binance. And we're very excited to talk to him about, there's a lot of current event stuff going on, and then we kind of want to get an overview of what's going on with Binance in general. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Definitely. So we want to start out by asking you just kind of generally about the direction of Binance, the direction of where you feel like Bitcoin is going, because everybody's been anticipating the price of Bitcoin going up, and then we've really hit some moments of bearishness over the last few weeks. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, but what is your general overview or idea of where Bitcoin is going?
I think the direction is really up. So, but I think basically, if you look at a longer time horizon, Bitcoin fundamentally has not changed at all. The use cases, the number of people using it, the adoption rate is just increasing. So cryptocurrency will be here to stay. If you look at 20, 30, 50 years from now, you'll be used everywhere. So we're not worried about the general direction of the where it's going. I think right now there's only probably 0.1% of the population who have crypto, so less than 1 in 1,000. So there's a lot of room to grow. And also I think crypto's not just going to replace fiat. You will have a lot more new use cases that fiat couldn't do. So this is like, you can do a lot more with internet than you could do with physical letters, right? So, I think there's a lot of potential there. So we're not really worried about that. Short-term pricing, there's always fluctuations. If you look at shorter time frames, 1 year, we're looking pretty good. If you look at a couple of weeks, there are fluctuations, but that's just part of the market, right? So that's just the overall market. Every market is like that. There are bound to be fluctuations. Given crypto is a smaller market cap, so it fluctuates a little bit more because it's a smaller boat, but that's just the nature of the game. So I'm not worried about that. Binance is doing we have so much stuff going on. Like the stuff we're building, and also
tell us about some of the stuff. We'd love to hear about it.
Sure. I mean, we just in the last 3 days, right? So there's the India fiat now.
Oh, right.
A day after the Supreme Court ruled that they should not, banks should be servicing cryptocurrencies, or at least they should not ban it. A day later, we now have bank deposits for India rubles. So that's pretty big. That's a big country, by the way. So and there's always a lot of stuff happening. There's 3 or 4 major announcements coming in March. So all of them are all of them are pretty big chunk products, not just small features. So I will definitely let you know and give you a chance to announce those.
Awesome.
So as you start to see some this India thing, did you have any idea that was happening? So behind the scenes, you could have your team working to get ready. So once they kind of go live with, all right, this isn't illegal, you guys are right in the background, ready to just launch.
Honestly, no. So we actually had to. The team. We have a fairly independent team locally, led by Nishal. He's a CEO of Wazirax, which is the team we acquired.
Right. The coin had a big pump.
Yeah. So and they have their own token, etc. So, but we actually honestly didn't know. We were just praying that it would be good, and we actually didn't know how good it would be, or which parts they will allow, which parts they would not allow. But those guys have been following very closely. So what they enabled yesterday was just a very quick temporary measure of letting people deposit using bank accounts. Next week, we're going to have instant deposits through, like, if you deposit, you get it right away. So it's happening in steps. So we weren't fully prepared for it, but we knew that it could go either way. And if it goes one way, then we'll be pushing really aggressively. So now it's very positive.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I mean, we're starting to see a lot of stuff around the world. This has been a very busy week for Bitcoin and crypto around the world. You had the stuff with India. Then, of course, you also had, I think, South Korea, had some news as well. And then Australia and Germany both legitimized Bitcoin as basically a legal currency. And so a lot of stuff is going on. And I understand you guys have a lot of features coming up on Binance. Definitely excited to hear more about that. But here's a question I want to ask you, okay? A lot of people compare Binance to the Google of crypto. They say that's what you guys are trying to be, is Google. You're trying to do everything, and having new features that kind of lines up with that. But this is what I'll say about Google. I think most people consider them to be an evil empire at this point. Most people think that Google is not actually doing positive things. They're helping to spy on us, advertising, all of those things. What are you guys doing to try to prevent yourself from going down this road, from being at first this really popular, crypto exchange where, people are able to use it and they're excited about it, to, now, like, some people are having some questions about some things you were doing? Like, what are you guys doing to make sure that your image stays, as someone who's trying to do something good for crypto?
Sure. I think basically fundamentally, I think there's a few different parts a few different solutions to that problem or question. Number one is, I think historically, most cryptocurrency exchanges had a bad rap already. So we actually were one of the very first ones, and one of the very few ones that actually have a pretty decent rap among exchanges, because we're very user centric. So everything we do, we think about what would the user want. But even with that, after you grow to a certain point, there are always going to be some guys who some things you do that takes balances. And some people will complain. I think there's some clearly fundamental principles like user privacy, user rights, etc., that we would not touch at all. There are other issues where, for example, if the users from a sanctioned country, but the sanction is issued by, say, a very powerful country, United States, we'll have to comply, and those users are we can't help those users. So there are those trade-offs which we have to make, which is kind of those are balances, and some users will complain. And once you get to a really big size, then people do think you're evil, because people usually side with a smaller David. So that's a little bit hard to avoid completely. But I think fundamentally in our hearts, as long as we always follow our principles of providing what the users want, and protecting the users' interest, rights, protecting their funds, making sure they have an easy to use and safe platform, and we try to stay neutral. We don't make decisions for them. So this recent incident that you probably know about with the Steem, that was a mistake. Right. So we backed out of it. So that was something that was, honestly, we did something we didn't know, but it happens. But we acknowledge it. We apologize. We back out of it. So hopefully, as we continue to do that, people will see our values, see the fact that we actually are always aligned with the users. So that's the best we can do.
Nice. I know that we probably want to get into the whole Steemit thing in a few minutes, but kind of just going back, a really quick answer, ask you a question about, kind of mass adoption. And as we start to see more countries, accept Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and stuff, do you ever see crypto as an everyday currency for any one of these countries? Or do you think it's just going to remain an asset that's speculative?
Oh, I absolutely think that it's going to be an everyday usage currency, and it may or may not be Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin blockchain is 10-minute confirmations. But Bitcoin is pretty secure that it's quite hard to reverse, even if it's zero confirmations. We have not seen a reversal of transactions for a long time.
But you talked about trying it once.
It was a proposal that was proposed to me, and I was still thinking about it. I never said I would do it. And to be honest, even if I tried, there's no chance it's possible. So it is very secure. So in that sense, so I think, but fundamentally, I think cryptocurrency will get there, where every day people use it instead. It's just like when we use WeChat or like WhatsApp to chat, or when we use Twitter, we don't think about sending letters to other people. So I think we'll definitely get to that point with cryptocurrencies versus fiat today. So
you guys heard it here first. CZ, the founder of the world's biggest altcoin exchange, not a Bitcoin maximalist.
Thank you.
You guys heard it here first. Now, I'm also not a Bitcoin maximalist by any stretch of imagination, but I agree with you. It's the most secure network. We know it's the biggest name brand in crypto, but obviously, like in terms of being a digital currency, the sentiment and direction of it hasn't gone that way, and then fundamentally, it doesn't line up for that right now either. But so I do want to come back to the Steemit situation, and I think there's a bigger issue here, which is when people talk about, not your keys, not your crypto. I'm sure you know that phrase very well. People talk about not keeping their money on exchanges. And the reason for that would be if an exchange got hacked. You guys have been very good when you have been hacked about making sure customer funds have been, safe-oo, as you say, and coin the term. But we're starting to see now with staking options that you're actually giving power to the exchanges to make decisions on your behalf. And so that's basically what happened in the Steemit situation, is you guys used the Steem that was on, on the exchange to make a decision on behalf of the people that were holding it on the exchange. And how does that kind of work with the dynamic where you said that, we don't want to be, taking crypto in certain directions, but then at the same time, like, I know you said it was a mistake, but you guys have the power to do that, regardless of this one situation or not.
Yeah. So I think, again, there's a few different points in there. I think fundamentally, let's address the later points first. Yes, the exchanges, the centralized exchanges are easier to use and are preferred by almost most users, or a majority of users. That's very clear from the number of transaction volumes, the number of users, etc. So basically, the users vote with their money, right? So basically, they say, look, we want to use centralized exchanges. And that's just the way our current world works. So there's a lot of work to do on decentralized exchanges, custodian wallets, actually non-custodian wallets, etc. And we have a lot of investments in those spaces as well. And we want to push for that as well. So I think fundamentally, and also for regular users, today is actually most people do choose to use a centralized exchange to hold the cryptocurrency. So because it's easier, it is actually safer. A lot of people lose their own cryptocurrency when they hold it on themselves, not because of the technology, but because it's because of themselves, right? They just don't have the capability or the technical ability to hold it in a secure fashion. They lose it, they get hacked, all kind of stuff happens.
Interesting point. That's a very, very interesting point.
Yeah, so I've heard so many, our customer support deal with so many guys calling us, hey, I just withdrawn the coins on my own wallet 2 days ago. Couldn't find it anymore. I lost my backup. My phone reset. All that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, actually happens a lot more, but they happen on a smaller scale with many people, so that it doesn't get really reported.
Right.
So it's not to say one is more safer than the other. I think for anybody who's technically capable of backing up their seed, backing up their private keys, store them in a secure fashion. And those guys should, if they want, they really should hold their own coins. But if those guys want to trade, then so regardless of what people want or not, but today the number of users using centralized exchanges are much larger, much larger, probably like a couple magnitudes larger.
Yeah.
This brings to the next point, which is like governance, voting, staking. So Binance is the first exchange to say, hey, look, we look at NEO, and NEO generates gas coin, which is valuable, and most exchanges just whatever it generates, they just keep it, and the user gets nothing. We said, well, that's kind of wrong. So let's figure out a way, calculate how many users have NEO with us, and distribute that proportionally to the guys who are holding NEO with us. Because then those guys were holding coins with an exchange. Then now they're not losing anything. And when we do that, we don't charge any fees for it. We don't take a cut. We give 100% of the gas generated distributed to our users. So that's great. So that's like, and then staking is kind of like that. A lot of coins generates interest by staking, and we're now supporting more and more coins. So we're still at the early stages of all of this features. And voting is a really interesting thing.
It is.
So now with staking comes voting. So voting, the Steem thing was a first occurrence. We kind of never really participated in voting. But now we're faced with a question where we're discussing internally, how should we support that now? So maybe we should have a vote feature on the platform so that people who hold coins on the platform can vote, and then we can use that vote to vote. So this way,
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yes. So, but there's some really interesting impacts, follow-on impacts on that. You will, for example, in the Steem case, Binance holds the swing vote. So Binance is really the large. We're large enough, and we hold the swing vote for sure, by far. So that means whichever vote we vote, whichever vote wins on our platform is actually going to be the determining vote. What's going to happen if we do that is it's going to actually force other people to deposit Steem onto Binance to vote, because this is the swing vote. And so for us, it's great because that attracts more funds to the platform. People may trade more.
But people are going to have a lot of questions about that. Like, you guys are using that to get people to put their money on exchanges and stuff like that.
Right. So, but like, so there's some secondary, tertiary impacts that we have to think about. But for us, it's quite easy to provide a feature to say, look, if there's a governance, if there's a vote thing going on the chain, we can actually do it on the platform. We're actually centralizing that. So there's some really interesting implications if we do that. So. But fundamentally though, we don't make decisions for our users. So we still want our users to make those decisions. We're just here to provide a platform. So there are ways we can extend that capability further to be more refined. Historically, no one else has done it before, and so we're now facing this kind of question for the first time. But there are solutions. So we're looking at that. We're thinking about it. Nothing has been decided, but. There's some really interesting implications.
Yeah, and I mean, not about Steem. I was going to say, like when it comes to the community, obviously you must probably block the most people on crypto Twitter, I can imagine, just because you see, like in some of your posts, you might ask a question, and again, this is just relates to community about how the shill armies like all of a sudden start shilling their their projects and their community when it has zero relevance to whatever it is that you're talking about. Like, what do you feel about that? And what do you do at this point to say, like, all right, do you just mute the conversation so you don't have to hear it anymore?
So actually, I gave up trying to mute the shillers. So the guys who are shilling coins, or hey, why don't you list this project, stuff like that. So I just don't respond. I don't mute them. I don't block them. They're kind of innocent, to be honest, because a lot of them don't know our policies. Our policies, we don't really discuss listings. There's a very standard procedure now. So they go through that. We don't comment on coins. We don't say which coin is good or bad. So we don't get involved in debates. We stay neutral. So that kind of stuff. The guys I block are mostly just really negative people, right? So they come up saying like random stuff, just completely negative. I try not to get into debates at all because I think it's just a waste of time. My time is better spent building stuff. So for those guys who are obviously negative, they made up their mind, they don't like us, but they still follow me on Twitter and still trying to chime in on all of our posts. Click block, done. So out of sight, out of mind. So I don't spend any energy on that. I don't lose any sleep over that. But it's actually not a huge number of people that I block. I think I only block like 200 to 300 people. So
how many followers do you have now?
I think I have 400,000, 450, okay. 480,000. So it's like, I don't know, it's less than 0.2%, right? So
yeah.
Less than 0.5%. So
I have twice that many followers on TikTok. So
it's true. Do you do TikTok, CZ?
No, I'm not a video guy. I tried Instagram. I just couldn't find the graphics every time. So I'm more of like a quick words type of guy, much easier. So Twitter kind of fits me the best. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, and you're definitely known to kind of, to be your own man. And I want to talk about one thing. We want to finish this interview by talking about we want to get to know you a little bit better. I want to know about the shorts. Tell us about the shorts that you wear.
So, well, there's a couple of things, right? So, number one is I'm never a really fashionably correct type of guy. So I often show up to a suit party wearing like I don't know, Slack or whatever. So I'm never really sort of, and I always wear something that's comfortable. So I try to make myself comfortable instead of making other people's eyes comfortable. I really hate suits, ties, and stuff like that.
Me too. 100%, definitely.
So but usually I'm also relatively respectful if I'm appearing in public. So right. But in Bermuda, I went there. The guy picking me up was like in suit, tie, and shorts and high socks. I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. So then the next day I asked, like, well, that's the formal wear in Bermuda, and that's why shorts are called Bermudas, right?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's actually formal wear, and so I was like, wow, that's great. I want to show respect to the local custom. So when I bought a pair, they're very strict. You can't have like really low down pockets. They should just do single pockets. It shouldn't be too short, and the socks have to come up to your knee. The socks have to be pretty high, etc. So I bought the whole set, and I want to follow the custom, right? So then I was signing a MOU or some kind of treaty with the Premier David Kirk, and so I wear shorts, but everybody else wear like full suits.
Yeah.
But no, that was good though. That was good. Like I think that PR exposure was like fantastic. Like there's so much tweeting on social media, even the Chinese social media. So got a lot of exposure. So that was quite good.
That's good. Another personal question about you. How's your back feeling? I know a couple months ago you had a back surgery for what is a herniated disc. How you feeling?
So the surgery went really well. I feel great, but there's this minor complication which I'm still trying to figure out. Did an MRI afterwards. One of the doctors says it's a reherniation, like coming up of some disc. Some guy says it looks like an allergy, but I don't feel anything. I feel great. I can move around. I can jump. Well, not really jump up and down. I'm not supposed to do that just yet. But I can sit, I can walk, I can do everything. So there's a small complication which we'll figure it out. But overall, I think the surgery went really well. I'm actually curious if anyone's an expert at looking at MRIs and can get some expert opinions.
I'm sure on Twitter you can find an expert on something that they're not really an expert on. Don't worry.
Yeah, I didn't really want to write a tweet before, just say, hey, can I freak everybody out? But since you asked, I said, well, might as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say I remember seeing those the post of you saying that you had laid in bed for 6 days. Man, there's nothing in the world that could keep me laying in bed for 6 days. I'd have lost my mind.
Yeah, so those are the only 6 days I laid in bed. After that, I was up.
Yeah.
So do you, something we talk a lot about on the show actually is I mean, the show is Beards and Bitcoins. We're the show for the regular guy, you know? And we talk about different things, you know, tools, beer, motorcycles, sports. What would you say you're into that is like a real manly thing?
Actually, I was into beer, motorcycles, all of that stuff before. Nice. I went through 3 motorcycles. Never really crashed any one of them, but just sort of rotated through 3 motorcycles, all secondhand. This is like all 12, 15 years ago when I was much younger. So I'm sort of done the motorcycle thing. I do a lot of outdoor sports, snowboarding, windsurfing.
Okay.
Not very good with surfing. Windsurfing is okay. I can go back and forth, kind of not too far from the shore. Surfing, I never really got into it. So I did all of that when I was quite a bit younger, but now my body doesn't really let me do that kind of stuff too easily.
Yeah.
So I missed snowboarding this season. So I didn't do anything this season. So now I'm just trying to recover my back, doing physical therapy exercises. And I swim a little bit. Well, I haven't really swum after the surgery, but soon I'll be able to swim again. But these days, I feel that I don't really need a lot of other excitement. Like the running exchange is pretty exciting.
I would say so.
Keeps the blood pumping.
Yeah. Keep the blood pumping. Well, it's easy.
What about one more question? Yeah, one more question. So I know that you recently got or maybe this was last year, you got the Binance tattoo. You got any more plans for more ink? There it is.
Yep. So yeah, no, I quite like this tattoo. And I think for me, this tattoo makes like total sense. It's very meaningful to me. I think basically, regardless of what happens tomorrow, I'm okay with having this tattoo on my body for the rest of my life. Even if for example, even if I get fired as a CEO of Binance, somebody else is running it, I'm okay with that. Probably make my life better, actually. But so for me, this symbol is very, very meaningful, and I'm okay with having it on my body. I don't have a next one just yet, and I don't plan to do another project. So I want to do this thing for a few more years at least, and see how things go.
Well, that is really great. So you guys heard it here first. When Justin Sun buys Binance and fires CZ, he's going to be totally good with it. You guys heard it here first.
He needs a bit more market cap.
That's funny. That's funny.
That's awesome.
Well, CZ, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a very informative interview. I feel like we've really got to see a different side of you and kind of see some of the things that go behind the decisions that you guys are making. I think the thing that people need to realize is that crypto is still so new that you guys are figuring it out just like we are. And, it's a learning process all the way around. So we definitely appreciate you for coming on and appreciate, you taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Ben, Justin. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you, CZ.
Sure.